the rapport building is more important than how many calls it takes to close.
Hmm.
One of the things that I see is investors think that they should get a yes or no in 6.5 minutes. And when you are on the phone, well, we're in high ticket sales, right? Which is a very challenging thing to be in. You got to be really skilled. The seller is often moving their most valuable prized possession, which is their house. And if people think that in 8 minutes they're going to be able to build rapport and get to a yes or a no, um, you're never going to beat somebody who is willing to go sit in that living room for 3 hours and learn about everything that person has going on and then get that deal under contract. So,
Hmm.
from a sales process perspective, if you just connect better with the seller, you don't even have to be great at sales. You just got to be better at connecting.
Hey guys, welcome to the Julian Castle Show. Today I got James. James is from PropertyLeads, and today, it really isn't about how to run Google ads or any other ads. Today is about how to be the top 1% buyer of paper leads, so you don't get wrecked by vendors, and how James, built one of the biggest motivated seller lead paper leads company in the game. So James, how you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to get to know you and talk to your audience. This is great.
For sure, man. So thank you. Most investors say PPL burned me, and it's from your vantage point, why do you see so many people lose money buying leads?
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I'm not laughing at those people who have been burned. I'm
Mhm,
laughing because I've heard it a lot over the years,
mhm,
especially early on when I just got into the PPL space, and like I didn't know that like there was so much burning going on. So
mhm,
I remember folks being really like jaded and worried, and I didn't understand. And then I finally understood that it was because they had bad experiences. And I just remember saying to the team, I was like, listen, if we can just always answer the phone when people call and just help them when they need help and just never sacrifice like lead quality, like we will we will blow everybody out of the water. And I think we've done a great job of that. Um, in terms of your question, why do I think it was why have so many people feel like they've been burned? Was that the question?
yeah, yeah. Most people say PPL burned me.
Yeah.
What do you?
It's tough to pinpoint every scenario. I think there's a combination of we could do a better job just in general, right? Of consistently generating good leads. And I do see newer operators coming into the space. They may have done some cold calling, they got a couple of deals, and they have this belief that, well, if I've done cold calling and I've been successful, inbound is just going to be easy. It's just going to be
Mhm,
easy. It's almost like they're looking for the easy button. And
mhm,
is it more pleasant? Yes, I would say it's more pleasant. Is it easier? I don't know about that. I think when you roll out any new marketing channel or you just run a marketing channel for long enough, you're going to hit bottlenecks.
mhm,
And the game is, do you stick with it long enough to fix the bottlenecks, or you just move on to the next thing? I think us real estate investors, we suffer from shiny object syndrome.
mhm,
And when something doesn't work for 30 seconds, we're just like, we got to go on to the next. So I'm
mhm,
really a big fan of people picking a marketing channel, maybe two, and running it consistently for 12 months. Not if you're getting smoked and losing a bunch of money, um, but in any new thing that you roll out, there's going to be learning curves, and you have to hang in there long enough to fix those. So,
hmm. Yeah, for sure. Amazing. That's a great answer. So, and what do you think it's like the biggest lie that most investors say about you know motivated sellers leads?
yeah, one of the ones that cracks me up, and admittedly, I was guilty of this early on, so I'm going to go full confession. There is the old 1 in 10. I feel like everybody on the planet says their leads close 1 in 10. I don't know where that metric came from,
Yeah.
but it's a tricky metric because conversions are very specific to the operator's ability.
Mhm,
Um, you could take two investors, somebody brand new who just doesn't have experience yet, right? They just need more practice, and you could send them 10 leads where five people are going to sell to somebody in the next 30 days, and they may not get a deal, and they're going to say the leads stink, And then you could send somebody who's been doing this for 20 years and has a great sales process for inbound leads. And you could send them 10 lower quality leads than what we sent the other fella. And they're going to figure out a way to squeeze a couple deals out because they're experienced and they're champions. So that's probably the funniest one. And, we try to stay away from, kind of over promising there,
Mhm.
just because we don't want anybody to feel like, we over promised and under delivered.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. So before property leads, like, what did your own marketing look like? Like, were you like getting punched in the face or like what?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was one of those really inexperienced people. I came from like the construction world, so
Mm.
there was a lift for me to learn to sell, but also to learn kind of the skills needed to be good at real estate and more have like I guess kind of like an office type job rather than in the field working with my hands type job.
Mhm.
So when I started real estate, I was calling on expired listings, canceled listings, and withdrawals, and like for
Mm.
sale by owners. And I did that because that's what I learned how to do in the coaching program that I was at the time. And then
Mhm.
over the years, I just saw a lot of people not making money, and I was like, well, nobody here's making money, but I know there's people out there making money. So like, what's the delta? And
Right.
that led me down like trying to learn marketing better. And I found inbound leads and I started deep diving on that. And that's actually how I met Andy, who's one of the other founders.
Mm.
Um, he had a Facebook group where he would just teach people how to build their their local organic SEO sites. And at the
Mm.
time, he was just working on wholesaling as well, and I was trying to do that. I went back to kind of doing construction,
Mm.
but I was building my website, trying to get my lead flow going.
Mhm.
And I heard Andy on a podcast, and he was talking about how he was getting like I think it was like 60 or 80 leads in his local market for just SEO. And I was like, dang, like I would do some weird stuff to get 80 SEO leads in my market.
Dude. Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I literally added him as a friend on Facebook, and I got into their Facebook group, and I started doing the stuff that they were telling me to do, and we just became friends. And he was like, "Hey, man, I got this idea. I think you would be a great like front facing guy. You understand real estate, like you have an understanding of the inbound lead space.
Mhm.
Um, you interested in kind of teaming up here with a couple other folks?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, this sounds great. Let's do it." So that's kind of how Property Leads was born.
Nice. That's amazing. Okay, wonderful. So at what point, like, did you realize like we can build a better lead product than what's on the market?
We realized it pretty quick. We're,
Hmm.
I feel like we're very fortunate at Property Leads. We have a lot of really smart people. We also have a lot of folks who've been burned in the past by somebody in the real estate space. So we're very sensitive to making sure that we're always putting out a good product because we don't want to be the folks out there burning folks. So,
Hmm.
um, you know, we learned pretty quickly on that if we just did things the right way and we just told people the rules on how we do everything, that we would come out ahead. And that's exactly what's happened.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So Andy, you and two other folks. So besides so property leads, right? What other kind of different sectors do you guys have that you guys operate, within you know, the four horsemen,
Uh, is the question like, are we
like
in any other niches or?
yeah, do you have like any other products like that are front
Oh,
facing? Yeah.
um, no, not anything outside of the real estate space. I'm not sure if we'll ever move into a different niche. I guess it's possible. Property Leads is our premium product. Um,
Hmm.
we do have a lower quality product that we're working on right now. It's called Fizzy Leads. I know it's kind of a
Hmm.
funny name.
Hmm.
Same sources as what we sell at Property Leads, but different quality for sure. Lower title transfer, so out of 100 leads, less leads are likely to sell to somebody. These leads, think like a couple bucks versus the Property Leads product, which is like $30 and up. Countywide leads are 125. It's great for like newer investors, people who just need practice talking to sellers, and they can't, they don't want to spend 125 bucks in their market to to buy leads. We deliver those at the national level. It's more of like a package subscription,
Mhm.
um, 750 leads for $1,000 or something. I can't remember the pricing, but think like a couple bucks a lead versus, the premium product that's, 30 and up.
That's pretty awesome. I actually practiced with some of those leads of, like non-exclusive leads or, just those lower quality leads. And I think it's great for people that are actually beginning to do things like because you can get so many reps and so you can learn the sales process very well.
Agreed. Yeah. We sort of frame it as like, these leads suck because we know that property leads are so good that we don't want people buying these thinking that it's going to be property leads quality.
Yeah.
So we're very transparent about what they are, but there are also houses and they're selling. So one of the stats that we track internally at Property Leads to make sure that like we're doing a good job for people
Yeah.
is we look at title transfer. So from the leads we sold you, how many sold to somebody, right? So that if somebody's struggling, we can look at the data and say like, okay, like from the 100 leads we sold you, this is how many sold. And if we gave you enough shots to buy a house, we're gonna go over the ones that sold to somebody else and not you. And if we didn't give you enough shots, right, not enough houses actually sold to somebody, then we know we owe you credit. And we do the same thing with Fizzy.
Mm.
And I would say anywhere from 2 to 5% of those properties are still selling to somebody. So definitely a lower amount. Like you're gonna have to prospect harder. But when we were beta testing it, I sent a fella just 100 leads, which is like not a lot of leads for these, and he got a
Yeah.
15K rip. I couldn't believe it. It would have been like 200 bucks in leads. Like if he bought the package, it would have been like 200 bucks, and he got a 15K rip. So the ROI on it is incredible. It's just more work. You got to work more. You got to work harder. You got to be more consistent. It's not quite cold calling, but it's definitely not. It definitely doesn't have the inbound like property leads feel.
Right, right. So like leads are more or less $2 a lead or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, $2. I think they range anywhere from like a buck 50 to maybe 250, depending on how many you commit to. The more you buy, the less we'll charge you per lead. So
Nice. And that's only on a national level, or can it be like county specific or state specific?
currently, it's delivered at the county level. If somebody came in as maybe like a bulk buyer, wanted to spend 10K plus per month, we could probably you know play ball a bit. But as of right now, if you just wanted to come in and buy a couple hundred leads a month, it would be delivered at the national level.
The national level. Okay, cool. Awesome. So let's talk about the early days. What was version one of Property Leads? Like, what was embarrassingly bad about it?
Yeah. So there's a couple things that we joke about. So when we launched Property Leads, originally we were like exclusively organic SEO leads. And
Hmm.
our pitch was like quality over quantity. People were like, this sounds awesome. And then we'd get people onboarded, but we'd only be getting 2 leads in a county and they'd be canceling because they weren't getting enough leads. It just wasn't worth their time. So we
Yeah.
learned a really valuable lesson there that while SEO is sort of the supreme lead from like a quality perspective,
Hmm.
it's not the only thing that's important. Like it sounds crazy, but quality is not the only thing that's important. It's super important, but it's not the only thing.
Hmm.
Quantity is also equally important. So the game that we play is like, how do we get you enough leads without watering down the lead pool? And that's over the years what we figured out how to do. Like we've just learned how to figure out whether or not a lead is most likely to sell their house or not. If it is, it goes into the property leads bucket. If we're not 100% sure, it goes into the Fizzy leads bucket. So that's kind of how we
Hmm.
direct traffic. Also, some of the hilarious things early on, the dashboard is really, I think user friendly at this point. You can
Hmm.
add and remove counties. You can increase and decrease your bid prices. You can pause your account. Well, early on, you had to email me to do that. So if you wanted to pause your account for the weekend, you'd have to email me. So um, that's changed over the years. It's just kind of funny now looking back that like if somebody wanted to, change their bid price or pause their account, they'd have to send an email and wait for me to respond. So
For sure. That is funny.
yeah,
Okay, great. So, and who was the very first investor who bought leads from you? Like, what expectations did you set? Like, and what actually happened?
yeah, I can't share names, but he was a
Okay.
fella. There's two fellas that were kind of the first two. It's funny you asked me this because I was looking at this the other day. One fella buys in I want to say either Arkansas or Oklahoma. Um, he unfortunately doesn't buy from us anymore just because he was able to get his like organic SEO local, local brand really working really well. So he gets plenty of leads from that.
Mhm.
But the other fella buys in like the Alaska area, and where does he buy? Alaska and maybe Texas, and he still buys leads from us to this day. It's been four going on 4 years at this point, and he's
Nice.
been buying straight through. Like there's been no breakage in buying. So yeah, they were the
Mhm.
first two. It's funny, like a lot of people from the early days still buy from us, and an interesting stat, because we were kind of talking about how to be the top 1% in PPL buyers.
Mhm.
We're very data driven,
Mhm.
and we found that when people buy 200 leads from Property Leads, they literally never cancel their account. It's like a less than 1% churn rate or cancel rate if somebody's bought 200 leads. And the reason for that is that volume negates luck, right? I've seen
Mhm.
people buy 10 leads from Property Leads and get 8 deals, like literally 10 leads, 8 deals. And they're like, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
like pump the brakes, bro. Like I promise you're going to run into a stretch where, you get 20 or 30 leads and you don't get a deal. Like that is inbound marketing. And then on the flip side, like I've seen people get 50 leads, right? Not get a
Yeah.
deal. And they're like, this is the worst thing I've ever done. And the only thing that helps with both of those, right, is volume. So
Mhm.
when you're, thinking about, should I pull the trigger on this or not,
Mhm.
at least like mentally prepare to buy 200 leads from, whatever provider you decide to go with, because
Mhm.
the volume piece is really really important. And like if I was listening to this, I'd probably think like, oh, okay, like the lead guy's telling me the way to win is to buy more leads. Like, sure, buddy. Like, I get that, but the data speaks for itself. When people buy 20 leads and they cancel, they just haven't done it for long enough. So
Mm. Okay, great. Wonderful.
yeah.
Sweet. That's good. That's a good stat. So when you look at the average, investor's marketing stack, like what does PPL do really well? And is it like primary deal flow or is it like a supplement? Like where is it?
Yeah, amazing question. I would say that we have a pretty good mix of both. There are people
Mhm.
who have done everything and they literally only use us now. They run Property Leads with a no limit budget. They will take as many leads as we can send them in their market. They're paying $300 a lead. They don't care because they close and the ROI is good.
Mhm.
Um, I see people who use us, kind of in addition to their own internal branded, pay per click and lead gen. If they have lead kind of pinnacles that they have to hit for the month, we need 200
Mhm.
qualified leads this month. We're only at like 75. What do we do? Like, let's go turn on Property Leads. I've seen that.
Mhm.
And I've seen people use us as like a kind of a, in a group of 3 to 4 marketing channels for the larger companies. A lot of people are doing their own internal branded ads. They're also
Mhm.
doing direct mail and some other stuff. It's a big mix. I'd say one of the biggest advantages that I've seen for like newer investors, so somebody brand new, more than likely still working a job, is the ability to turn your account on and off. You can't do that with PPC or like Facebook ads or mail. Like you can't control when you send a piece of mail when that person's going to call you. So like if you're at work and
Mhm.
you're trying not to lose your job while building your real estate business on the side,
Yeah.
having to take an inbound call could be tricky. So I've always recommended when people are new that if they get off at 5, they turn their Property Leads account on at like 4:45, 4:30, 4:45, and then they get home, right? And they have 3 or 4 hours to call the leads that come in. So I know that wasn't really what you asked, but I feel like that's important, just being able to turn it on and off. It's also less
Mhm.
competitive in the evenings. A lot of the bigger companies that buy leads from us that have like sales teams, they'll pause their account at 5. So there's a lot of opportunity after 5 p.m. and going into the evening for cheaper leads because there's less competition.
That's good. That's good. Great answer. So and so where tell me like a little bit about where your leads really come from today. Is it like roughly between SEO, PPC, social, other.
Yeah, I mean anything you can think of that's inbound, we do it. Every paid ad platform that you can think of. We're running ads on it. Um, SEO is still a heavy strategy. It's just, you could have an SEO site, Google could ship an update and your site tanks, and now your SEO lead volume is depleted by 50%. So we have enough sites to where we can generally be safe from that, but we run a lot of paid ads. We're doing some other stuff as well: TV, radio, mail. You name it, we do it. Anything where we can find high quality leads, if we filter out the right stuff, right, like remove the stuff that's not good,
Mm,
we can take it and make it a solid lead channel. I see, kind of in the wild on social media, investors tend to have a kind of a negative vibe around like meta ads.
mm,
Um, and I understand, if not filtered properly, meta ads, you could spend a lot of money. It could be low quality. But if you took like 100 SEO leads, right, and you took 100 meta leads, you'd probably guess the SEO leads would outperform the meta leads, right?
yeah,
Probably.
probably.
Well, what if
Yeah.
you removed 80% of the meta leads, right? 80% of the form
Mm,
fills. Now you just have the
mm.
top 20%. Is it possible you could replicate title transfer for like and have it be similar to SEO just by removing enough of the nonsense? And that's what we do. We
Mm.
just filter more out. We just don't water down the lead pool.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
great. Awesome. So walk me through the journey, like from an ad click, forum verification to someone getting a text like you got a new lead. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, we do a lot of really cool stuff here. So, I mean, kind of what you described is, I'd say, sort of baseline.
Hmm.
Seller finds us on the internet somewhere in the wild. They fill out a form, and we're going to sell that lead to whoever's willing to pay us the most. Um,
Mm,
we got some really good advice last year from a really high level operator that does a lot of deals. He said, I get a 4 or 5x with you guys. He's like, it's awesome, but my sales team doesn't like working your leads because it takes 14 touch points to close the deal, where my own branded, it might take like 3. And we were
mm,
like, okay, well, we're all ears. Like, any idea on how we can fix it? And he's like, I actually do have a wonderful idea for you. He said, if you start treating the sellers like customers or like clients, and treating them like they matter and improving their experience, it will help the handoff to the investor and make it better. So what we did was we rolled out what's called home seller experience. So what it is it's a thank you page essentially that pops up. So the seller, puts their information in, they hit submit, the thank you page pops up. And it might say like, hey, Mr. James, you've been matched up with Julian from, Julian Buys Houses. He's going to be giving you a ring soon to talk about, potentially buying your property. Also, if you want to talk to Julian right now, just call this number and we'll connect you. So
mm,
if we can get them to call in from that thank you page, they're going to click the call button. We're going to live transfer them right to you. Okay, so that's the second piece of this, which is live transfers. If we can get somebody on the phone, we're going to live transfer them, right? So
yeah.
home seller experience plays into that. So we try to get them to call in, because if we can get them on the phone and just get them over to you, that makes your life a million times easier, because now you don't have to call them a million times. You don't have to send them 100 text messages. You don't have to worry about getting to them in 30 or less seconds, which is where you need to be to get these people on the phone, or somebody else is probably getting them. Um,
Hmm.
or if they just call in, let's say they don't even fill out a form, we'll, gather some basic information: name, address, email address, phone number, and then we'll also live transfer that right over. So um, I would say that that's kind of it in a nutshell. Lead
Hmm.
delivery, we can integrate with your CRM. We're going to text and email you. We can send it. I think it's up to 4 or 5 people on your team, 4 or 5 phone numbers, and then we'll
Hmm.
live transfer. The way the live transfer works too, it's really cool. I'm a big fan of like the boiler room style sales, where like it's like cutthroat, and not that everybody's like fighting for deals, but everybody's very competitive. So the
Mm.
live transfers will literally dial like everybody's number at the same time, and whoever answers and presses one first is who gets the call, which I love. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So it's a great way to get people on the phone. We offer it as it's literally free. Like, we don't have any subscription services or anything monthly. We literally
Mhm.
just did it because like we care about you guys and we want you to make more money. So we're always trying to think of cool ways to, get people on the phone. And um, where this sort of came from was we had a lot of refunds requested, right? So the investor would
Mhm.
get the lead. They would do everything that we'd ask. They'd call the seller 100 times. They'd send, 6 million text messages. They'd send emails. They would literally do everything we'd ask. And then the seller wouldn't respond, and they would submit the no response for a refund or a replacement lead, and we would decline it because we would get in touch with the seller. They'd be like, hey, we'd send one text, right? Hey, you still interested in selling? They'd be like, yeah, what's up, James? Let's do a deal. And we would get confirmation, and we'd have to decline the refund. And
Mhm.
and often what we realize is we actually had these people on the phone at one point, and we hung up. So we were creating friction.
Mm,
We were
I
creating friction
see.
in the sales process by hanging up. So we were
Yeah.
like, why don't we just figure out a way to get them right over to the investor to try to help solve the problem. So it's been really interesting watching that. It's
Mhm.
funny. Some people love live transfers, and other people are still like a little fuzzy on it. It's like kind of a new thing. Um, some of the like complaints slash feedback we've gotten is I don't have the lead information when you guys live transfer, and that throws me off on the sales call.
Right.
I found that one interesting because like I've taken these live transfers when I'm like out like on a walk with my dog, and
Mhm.
I'm just like, hey, Julian, dude, I have no idea what your address is. Like, can you just tell me so I can look it up real quick while we're talking? So we've had to kind of coach people through that. So that's kind of been interesting. Um, Getting people to use it more is the play for us right now. The more people use it, the faster they get on the phone with sellers. The game is get the seller on the phone and keep them on the phone, because I promise they fill out two other web forms. And if you let them off the phone and somebody else is just a little bit better at sales than you, they're probably going to win the deal. So get them on the phone and keep them on the phone. That's the game we play.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I like that live transfer feature. I think that's very, very impressive and valuable, I mean,
Yeah.
speed the lead,
Yeah.
Um
Agreed.
so you mentioned I don't have the lead information. So that you're coaching them how to go through the sales process of getting the information, right?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I should have clarified. They will get the
Yeah.
information. Sometimes it's just delayed by like 10 to
Mhm.
15 seconds. So when the live transfer occurs, we're still gonna, if you have your CRM integrated, we're still gonna send it to your CRM. We're still gonna text you. We're still gonna send you an email. But sometimes it's delayed by like 10 seconds. The live transfer happens while we're sending the lead info. So it still gets in. It can be delayed by a few.
Okay, gotcha. That's pretty cool. Um I'm just curious. Do you happen to have any lead data, like any data on like how much more effective is a live transfer than maybe if they just get a lead in their CRM?
Yeah. I'm going to give you like a real scenario where I saw this working, because that's all I can say for sure, because this is what I've seen. I'm a big
Right.
fan of sharing things that I've seen and I can confirm. I don't like sharing numbers based on stuff that's completely made up. I was at an
Mhm.
event 2 or 3 weeks ago in Houston, and
Mhm.
what we did was we called our leads live, which is
Mhm.
always really nerve wracking because like it
Of
could go terrible,
course.
right?
Yeah.
You get 20 leads, nobody's selling. It's stressful.
Yeah.
So what we did this time was I put four coaches, the four coaches from this coaching program, in to receive
Mhm.
lead via text and email, and also live transfers. And we worked 19 leads, and of those 19 leads, 3 deals were signed. So like literally signed at the event, not like a verbal yes, a signed contract.
Yeah.
And all three were from live transfers. The three
Oh,
signed deals were from live transfers. What's even more hilarious is one of the deals, one of the coaches talked to the seller 6 minutes ago and pitched a
uh-huh.
seller finance deal, and the seller cursed him out and hung up. Another coach called the same guy, and he locked up a 10-year note, 0% finance, seller finance deal. Same deal structure, just a different person pitching, 6 minutes
Huh.
apart, and they locked up the deal. I That blew my mind. And my takeaway
Wow.
there was like, don't give up. If you have salespeople, right? Like if you call and you're just not vibing with the seller and you can't get them across the finish line, Have somebody else from your team call and just be like, hey, like, I'm James. I saw you submitted a web form on my website looking for a cash offer. I just want to see what I can do to help you out. Because sometimes the seller just needs somebody that they vibe with. So
Mm.
um, I thought that was crazy. That's what I've seen in person. Super valuable from a live transfer perspective.
Dude, that's a really good metric to track. Like how many leads, you can get in touch with again with a different salesperson and crush. That's
100%.
amazing.
Yeah.
Um, Sweet. Well, that's super cool. Yeah. Okay, great. So, how do you define a seller that's motivated internally? Like what boxes must be checked before you sell that lead?
Yeah. Great question. I appreciate this a lot because I do
Mm,
see there's often a misalignment here in terms of what the investor's expecting and how we define it. So we've tried to do a better job of explaining this on the onboarding and welcome calls. So for us,
mm,
we define a motivated seller as a seller that wants to sell their house in the next 6 months. That's literally it.
mm,
That's all we do. Now, it's up to the investor to drop that person into the bucket that works best for them. You're definitely going to run into some sellers who are better fit to list. Having a really strong realtor referral program for that is
mm,
strongly recommended. I can give you a tip on how to execute that in a sec here. And then if you do creative, you do some novations and stuff like that, you should be in really good shape. The objective going into your appointment, whether it's in person or on the phone, should be to have multiple options. Okay, you need a fast cash offer because you have this thing and you value speed to top price. Amazing, I can help you with a cash offer.
mm,
Okay, you sound like the type of person that prefers top price to a fast offer. Well, I also specialize in selling homes quickly on the MLS. Do you want to see what that can look like? Early on, even when I was working my own SEO leads in my market in Massachusetts, I would get these leads.
mm.
And what I learned was I'd say, hey, Julian, I don't think I'm a good fit, but do you want me to have my realtor friend reach out to you? Nobody in the history of ever was like, sure, bro, have your realtor friend call me. Nobody wants to talk to your realtor friend. So I took some advice from a fellow Keith Sant, who is a real estate investor. And what he
Mm.
does is he says, hey, why don't I have somebody from my team come out and take a look at the house? I'm
Mm.
going to have him reach out and set up an appointment. He then refers that lead to a realtor. The realtor calls and sets up the appointment. They go out to the house. They talk about the cash offer. Hey, it didn't sound like the cash offer was a great fit. I don't blame you. I wouldn't sell my house for that either. I also specialize in selling homes quickly on the MLS. Do you want to see what that can look like? And then they just shift into a listing presentation. And then what you work out for payment on that is your business. But that's the best way to get a realtor out to the appointment so that you can maximize that lead and potentially make some money.
That's pretty good. Okay, wonderful. I did want to ask, so obviously you run different creatives, right? And this is something, you said like we qualify, a seller that is willing to sell in 6 months. So what are kind of some creatives that you're targeting, or what kind of seller are you targeting in some of
Yeah,
these?
we definitely always want to target like the folks looking for a cash offer, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
we can't control whether or not they understand what the cash offer actually entails when they're filling out the ad. So, we definitely
Mm-hmm.
avoid anything that's like get a full price, full retail offer. Like it just annoys people and like nobody wins and
Yeah.
it doesn't serve a purpose. So everything's very much centered around like get your fair cash offer, fair market value, right? Like fair market value is going to be subjective. You, the investor, has a very different opinion than the owner of the house. So
Right.
educating them on why you can't pay if they prefer the fast sale is what separates, the people who crush it and do a lot of deals and the people who don't and eventually, quit and move on because it's hard. Real estate's hard. Real estate's a really hard niche. Multiple closes. You got to close the seller on the front end, right? Then you got to dispo the deals. You got to close the buyer as well. Cash conversion cycle is longer. It's not like, you're selling insurance where you just, you sell some insurance, you get paid next week. Cash conversion cycle is often, 30 to, potentially 12 months, 30 days to potentially 12 months. It's hard. It's a hard, man. You gotta love brain damage to want to get into real estate.
for sure. And there's a lot of problems too. Like you have to.
Dude, yes. Title issues. Like you get a banger of a deal under contract and then you realize that there's, a lien on it and it eats into your profit. Dude, it's crazy. It's brutal.
Yeah, yeah, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked a little bit about what qualifies a lead. Now, what would you say disqualifies a lead automatically before an investor ever sees it?
Yeah, if they're just curious on price, that wouldn't even get through. If they're not selling like within the next 6 months, it still may get through. But like, let's say we send you a lead, Julian, and you call and they say, "Well, I'm selling in like a year and a half." You submit that for a refund. We'll get you a refund. Please keep following up because like they're probably going to sell at some point. It's almost like you have an advantage because you're getting to them so much early, and if you can develop a relationship over time, they're probably going to trust you and come to you. But our objective
Mhm.
is to get you a deal in the next 6 months from that lead. So um, other things, like if we do like a spam check for their phone number, or like the name doesn't match on title, things like that, sometimes they don't get through. um, there's some other things as well.
Okay, cool, cool. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Um, Wonderful. So, and then how do you decide what to charge on a lead? In a given county, like what factors would move up the price or down?
Yeah, awesome question. So we're definitely fans of the free market. So we let the bidders in the area determine what the bid price should be. So the way our platform works is if you're bidding at the county level, right, county specific, those start at 125 and they increase from there. There's some counties that I've seen get up, around five, six, $700. Southern Cal is a good example. Those prices always seem to be really elevated.
Hmm.
But the price is determined by the investors and what they're willing to spend per lead in the market. I've seen
Hmm.
counties in Northern California. One I saw one time get to 1875, $1,875 per lead. Dude, I'm gonna tell you, I called the guy and I was like, listen, dude, the leads are good, bro, but this is too much. Like you get 10 leads and you don't get a deal, you're gonna hate my guts. Like you should drop your bid price. And he's like, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know.
Wow. So he was willing to pay that much?
Yeah, he said his numbers allowed it. They were getting their top 1% operators in real estate.
Uh-huh.
Um, they squeeze the most out of all their deals. Their numbers allowed it, but like we talked about at the beginning, right? Volume negates luck. If he has a bad stretch of 20 to 25 leads, that's a tough one to come back from. So
For
um,
sure.
most people will probably think I'm crazy for calling and telling somebody to buy less, but there is there becomes a point where the leads, you're overpaying for leads, and you're eventually going to get burned, and then you cancel your account, and we don't benefit from that, neither do you. So we prefer to work together so that like you buy leads forever. That's we want to be growth partners with you so that you can buy leads forever.
That's amazing. So basically, um, if he has his bid at 1875, like you're gonna charge him 1875
Yeah,
every lead.
every lead.
Okay, okay, wow. Okay, interesting. And nobody else in the county is gonna get leads because he's just gonna get all of them.
100%. Yep. And that does happen sometimes. We have areas where you know somebody's just trying to get a couple leads a month and they can't because somebody's running property leads at $300 a lead with literally no budget. They have no budget set on their account. Like if we generate 18 million leads, like they'll just take all of them.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. That's amazing. And so at that point, like, do you come in and like tell the operator who's like outbidding everybody to like stop or how do
No,
you work?
we kind of have to stay out of it. It's not necessarily our place to tell people how to run their business.
Hmm.
If somebody comes in and they say, hey, I'm not getting enough leads, what should I do? We might say something like, hey, we see that you've been bidding 125 for the last couple of months, where we have these fellas bidding, the high bid is 300 in this area. So, if you want to get leads, you're going to have to bump to at least 300 to tie them. So you guys get round robin leads. Like, you get a lead, they get a lead, you get a lead, they get a lead, or you got to be the high bid. So, or if like they just don't want to do that, they can shift to a different, like less competitive market. A lot of people that buy leads from us at the national level like that because we have a ton of lead flow, and
Mm-hmm.
folks can bid anywhere from, I would say, 30 to $60 a lead at the national level and still get enough leads to run their business effectively. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, we can always strategize with people, or put a strategy in place. If somebody's like, hey, I'm not getting enough leads, like, what do you recommend? Sometimes it's just a different geo, a wider geo, couple, like, maybe you go in the outskirt counties rather than the main one. There's a lot of different things you can do.
It's amazing. Cool. And I know, for example, like there is some states that are harder to do deals in.
Yeah.
Um, how do you deal with that? Like, do you have any teaching you do or how to get deals or in some certain states or?
Um, we're not in the coaching space.
Mhm,
We work with a lot of coaching programs closely. If somebody says, "Hey, I want to learn about this exit strategy," we can definitely recommend a coaching program that could be a good fit.
mhm,
Um, the states where, like, maybe wholesaling's illegal or whatnot, transactional funding tends to be a good option so that they can just double close.
mhm,
We can connect people with the transactional funding folks. If they have a good deal and they can just do a double close, that generally solves the problem.
mhm,
um, and I think that's why we've seen a lot of people get in more into the transactional funding space over the last couple of
mhm,
years, because they see the writing on the wall. It's going to get a little trickier, to wholesale, and double closing is going to become more and more important. So, having that transactional funding is I think probably a little more important than a coach or learning a new strategy, but having both is definitely gonna give you an advantage.
Gotcha. And for example, let's say like we got a lead in South Carolina, right? South Carolina is some tricky, but people still get deals done, right?
Yeah.
Do you have like do you have a way of like saying, hey, I can refer you to an attorney or a title company or someone who knows how to close these deals to help you close a deal? Or is that something?
Yeah. In my experience, David Olds, easy REI closings, easy
Hmm.
REI.
Yeah.
He's the guy that we refer folks to. I'll definitely give him a shout out. If he doesn't know the answer on how to close something in a particular state, he definitely knows somebody. He knows somebody that does. So he's who we refer people to if they're stuck or they need a transactional, a TC company to move the deal along.
Nice, nice. That's good.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And so you were mentioning, about how you do title tracking. So what does your internal, title tracking data say about the percentage of leads that sell within 3 to 6 months to 12 and any type
Yeah.
of typical investor close ranges?
Yeah. Great question. So what's interesting is there's going to be a range. I've seen ranges, anywhere from 19% upwards of like 60, 70%, right?
Mm,
Um, Refunds factor in, markets factor in. What's interesting is I've seen people be like grossly successful with only 19% of their leads transferring title. And I've seen people say, I'm not having any success with property leads with a 50% title transfer. So
mm,
we obviously want to be the more we want to get it as high as possible.
mm,
Um, but in addition to just more houses that sell, what we want to do is lower the, like, cost per title transfer, right? So what that represents, so your cost per title transfer represents, like, how much does it cost for me to have an opportunity to buy a house that sells to somebody? That's a
mm,
number we're always trying to drive down. So, like, take national leads, for example, right? They're so inexpensive that even if you buy 100 leads and you get one deal, your cost per deal is still only 3 grand.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
if a bunch of those properties sell, your cost per title transfer is going to be super low. So it is a range. There's no, like, perfect number. I've seen people
Mm,
that are struggling with what I consider as, like, super high, like better than average title transfer. And then
mm,
I saw a guy on stage at an event, and I'd onboarded him kind of in the first wave of property leads clients, and I'd never met him in person. I didn't even know it was him until he said his name. And he's
Mhm.
like, man, we've been crushing it with property leads. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I pulled up his data, and it was like lower than I would have expected. And
Mhm.
what it told me is because he was such a great operator and he had, different exit strategies,
Mhm.
um, he was able to crush it. They needed to submit more refunds too. They never submitted a refund, like literally never submitted a refund, which can affect your kind of overall cost per deal and title transfer percentage, because we'll remove any refunded leads from kind of the algorithm, and we're only going to look at the paid leads. From the paid leads you actually bought and funded, how many of those sold to somebody?
Okay, good, 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 good. So, okay, wonderful. So, what can you explain the refund logic, like the credit logic? Like,
Yeah.
where do investors? Okay, so where do investors try to game you, and where could a vendor, like theoretically game an investor?
Yeah. You know, well, let me go through the reasons we'll refund for first. So I'll try to
Yeah.
remember all of them. It's been a bit since I've run through these. So if it's on the MLS when we send it, right? We send you the lead. It's already listed on the MLS. We'll refund you for that. Mobile homes and parks or on rented land. So like if the land is owned and both are for sale, we do consider that a lead. Any vacant land you get, any spam leads, right? So if somebody puts in like Hulk Hogan with a fake phone number, obviously that's nonsense. We'll get you a replacement lead for that. Um, no response. That's a big one. I don't think, don't hold me to this. Last time I looked, I think we're the only ones that refund for no response. It's
Mhm.
going to be verified though. We're going to reach out. We want to get them on the phone. We want
Mhm.
to confirm that they're selling. And if we do, we're going to decline the refund. We're going to kick it back and just say, hey, like we got confirmation from the seller that they're selling. Like, please continue to reach out. So those are, kind of the main ones in a nutshell. And then like out of area. So like you're in, we're in Florida. We accidentally send you a lead in Georgia because the seller puts in the wrong address. You call them and they say, oh no, the property's actually in Georgia. Like we'll get you a refund for that. That happens sometimes.
Mhm.
Um, Gaming the system, I've seen people submit just everything to see what they can get. I would, I
Okay.
would, I would strongly advise against that because we do track declined refund percentage, and the higher your declined refund percentage gets, the less likely you are to get leads. So let's say you're in a market with somebody and you guys are both tied at $300.
Mm.
Your competitor has a 1% decline refund percentage and you have a 10% decline refund percentage.
Mhm.
We we're going to send more leads to the 1% decline refund percentage because they're a better overall client, right? They work the refund policy better.
Mhm.
Um, the higher the declined percentage, the worse off you are. The only way to get leads at that point is to increase your bid over the top bid by like 50, $75 to offset for the declined refunds that we're getting. Generally, there's just a misalignment. It's not always it's not always the investor playing games.
Mhm.
Sometimes they just don't know the rules, or I've seen other funky things happen, like they have a lot of no response leads. We test their phone number and their phone number is showing up as spam likely. So
Mm.
like they didn't even know, right? They're like
Right.
they're just using it to how they think it should be used. And it
Mhm.
was just a thing that they didn't even realize. So checking your phones for spam is a big one, because if your
Mhm.
phone number is popping up as spam likely, people just may not be answering, or it may not
Mhm.
even be getting through. So
Mhm.
that's one way I've seen how folks can game the system. I mean, we want to get it right. Like we want to process the refund correctly, um, because we want to get your refund if it fits the refund criteria, because we want to get you a good lead, right? Because the rule in house is we got to give you a shot to buy a house. Because if we
Mhm.
don't, you cancel your account, like I've mentioned a couple times, and nobody wins there. We want to sell you leads forever. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know how you could game the system on the PPL side. I guess you could just decline refunds based on, I don't know, stuff that's not real and then not provide proof. I guess that in theory could happen, but we're always really, we're an open book. If we decline a refund and somebody emails support and they say, hey, like I've reached out to this guy 987 million times and I've received no response. Can you please send me what you got them to respond to? Because like I am really interested. We can always send a
Mhm.
screenshot of the text or, the call recording or something like that, And then if we can help with, building out a more kind of thoughtful follow up process for these leads, we'll help where we can.
Nice, nice. That's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you ever like do a handoff when you guys are verifying the lead when it came as a refund?
If we can call them and get them to answer, we will live transfer it. I will say that probably happens less than like us texting and the seller responds and says like, yes, I am still looking for a cash offer. Give me a ring when you have a chance. We're just going to get it back to the investors so that they can get them on the phone as fast as possible.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. Alrighty. Um, great answers. So what's the single biggest cost center your clients don't realize is you're eating on your side? Like,
Um, that's a great question. I mean, the live transfers are definitely not cheap. Um,
mm-hmm.
Paid ads also, like it's funny. I see posts sometimes on social media. They'll say, yeah, PPO companies are running at a 9,000% profit margin. And I'm like, bro, we're one mistake away from everything falling apart. Like, so the margin isn't as big as people
Mhm.
think. It's really expensive to generate really high quality ads. And,
Mhm.
I think people don't learn that until they go and try to do it themselves. We have people say, oh, I can do this myself. I'll save, and we always do our best to try to educate them. Right? It's no different than a seller saying, well, why would I sell to you for this when I can go, sell to this guy for more? You have to educate them on why, like you're the best option for their scenario, and we have to do
Mhm.
the same, right? Hey, like you could do that, but I'm curious, like tell me about Facebook or Meta's refund policy on no response leads or spam
Right.
leads. Like tell me about that. Who's your guy at Google that actually cares if you make money or not? Like I promise they don't exist. Um, so I'd say that those are probably the two biggest ones. I mean, high quality people is they're also not cheap. We have a lot of really high quality people. So, and we do that intentionally. We prefer it that way. We want to have really smart, really talented people that really care about doing a really good job and putting out a really good product. So, I would say those are probably the biggest.
Costs. Yeah,
Yeah.
that people
Yeah.
don't see. That's good. That's great answer. Okay. Wonderful. So let's get into a little bit about, you see hundreds of buyers, right, on the same lead source, right? So what are the top three behavior differences between the guys that are printing money and the guys like yelling, your leads suck?
Yes, my gosh. Thank you so much for this question. I love it. And for anybody listening to this is if you do these things, these are the single most things that'll move your business along. The number one thing is they're accountable and they're coachable.
Hmm.
They also let us know when things are wrong or something feels wrong, right? Like, hey, I don't know if something's off, but something feels off. I got a text message from a fellow the other day. He's like, hey, dude, our conversion seemed down. He's like, I don't know, something just feels different. Can you take a look? And we kind of went through a couple things, and it turns out like his numbers were better than the previous month, and he just hadn't looked at everything, so we were able to figure that out together. And he was like, "Oh, cool,
Hmm.
dude! Like I didn't think of these three things. Like this was awesome." So he's accountable and he's coachable.
Nice.
Looking at your PPL company as like a growth partner instead of like a like somebody you want to wrestle with is also really important. Like
Hmm.
we're on the same team, like we are
Hmm.
absolutely on the same team. Like if you make money, we make money. We want you to make money because we want you to buy leads
Hmm.
forever. Um, so looking at your PPL company, especially property leads, as a growth partner and not just as like some guy that sells me leads is really good. And then just being open to like adjusting with the times. What I see a lot is the market is forever changing, as you know,
Hmm.
and the ones who struggle generally are a little bit behind seeing those changes, right? So as a change happens, the first thing that they want to do is they want to say, well, the leads suck. When often the market is just shifting and they haven't figured out how to adjust for the shift. I'll give you an example of this. Right now, what's starting to happen is all those houses that sold during COVID at the really low interest rates where people were overpaying by like 30%. Well, they're needing to sell their house now. And a lot of them are actually in real scenarios where they're distressed. So they need a fast sale. But the investors are going in and there's not enough equity for like the cash offer and they don't know what to do. There is a pivot there. You just have to find it. It doesn't mean the lead's bad. The lead's actually fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
How do you buy that house sub 2? How do you just take over the note, right? What do you do there, right? Like, what is the pivot there, right? Because the market's not going to change for you. You have to change for the market. So accountability and being open to coaching, also giving us feedback, right? We need feedback as well. We need to know when something's off so that we can solve the problem. Looking at both sides as growth partners together, right? We got to grow together, and then staying up on market trends and pivoting fast. Those are the three main things. And then like, I'd say at a lesser, this is more of like a tactical thing, just calling the leads fast. Like, I was talking with a fella on a podcast a couple weeks ago. They run a very well-known PPC company in the real estate space. And when he started doing his own internal PPC, they were getting crushed. They were losing a ton of money. And they made one tweak. You want to guess at what it was?
I mean, call the lead in a minute.
Close. So they were getting to the leads in like a minute 30. All they did was they started calling the leads within 30 seconds. So they went from a minute 30 to 30, and it changed everything. His words, not mine. Changed everything.
Wow.
So 1 minute, 60 seconds changed everything. They went from getting absolutely smoked to making a bunch of money.
That's amazing.
Crazy.
That's amazing. Okay, great. I want to ask you a question on regards to, you said number one, be accountable and coachable.
Yep.
Have us as a growth partner. And the third one was, what was the third
one? Staying up on market trends.
Staying up in market trends. Okay. So
being able to shift fast.
On the first two, so I've obviously been a client of yours, right?
Yeah.
And obviously getting to know you and meet you is like amazing, right? I didn't know they could be so open. I didn't know all this information, right? Do you have a sheet or do you, can you create a sheet, even about like those two things? Because like being accountable and coachable is great. And, the second part, is like, if we know what to do, we'll do it. And then the growth partner thing is like, also like, what can we do? Like, how can we reach out to you and get something from you? Because we don't know there's open communication to you guys,
Yeah.
And so
Yeah. So I again, I really appreciate you bringing this up. Yes, great questions. Thank you. So one of the things early on that I'd say PropertyLeads was really bad at is just staying in touch with people. Like, I'm really good at making friends with folks. So like I would have that personal connection, but platform wide, that wasn't the case. So Andy and I are the type of people where we want to buy something and we never want to talk to you ever again. And we were just like, oh, that's how everybody wants to buy. That is not how everybody wants to buy. So
yeah.
So one of the things that we're working on now, and this is just building out the team and hiring more of those really talented people who are really good at this, is we're in the process of building out a really amazing, robust customer success team. One of the newer things we've rolled out in the last 6 months are like welcome calls, right? So that when you do your onboarding call, the next step is a welcome call so that you have a dedicated customer success rep. Support at propertyleads.com is probably the fastest way to get somebody if you just need something now. We're also working on building out like an article. I don't know what you would call it. Kind of like what you just mentioned, right? Like,
right.
Here are the 10 things that our most investors do, to be great PropertyLeads clients. So we're in the process of building all those out and having kind of a library of all that. It is taking a lot of time because we just need so much stuff, but it's a great idea. And honestly, it's something where I think we can do a lot better job of. And admittedly, it's my fault. Like, I was in charge of building all that out early. We realized that I'm not the best guy to do that. So we brought somebody in who's a lot more talented than me at that. And now he's kind of running with it. So we are working on it. We always welcome feedback, good or bad. If you will get on a call with us and tell us about how we can do better, we're always open to it. I can't promise if you come to us with like a suggestion that we'll be able to roll it out,
Mhm.
but if it makes sense, I promise there'll be a conversation about it internally. Um, we have a lot of discussions internally centered around like, is this annoying to the client? Yes or no? And we do our best to not be annoying, because what we've learned is the leads can be great, but if we're doing annoying things, people will still cancel their account. And we don't want you to cancel. We want you to buy leads from us forever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. That's great. Okay, wonderful. So there is going to be an article,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great
amazing.
idea. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, great. All right, that's wonderful. That's some good news. It's good
Yeah.
information. Now, we talked about speed to lead, right? And so you had that person. He said he went from 130 seconds, to 30 seconds, and that changed. Like, do you have any quantifiable evidence? Like, or like, I don't know if you know the metrics, but do you know how much of a difference that made for him in his business?
Not in terms of like I was at a 1x and it turned into a 5x. I don't know those numbers.
Right.
But I do know that sellers are most likely to fill out at least 3 web forms.
Mhm.
And the first person that gets them on the phone and keeps them on the phone has the best shot to win the deal.
Okay.
So if you get them on
Okay.
the phone and you keep them on the phone, you have the best shot to win the deal.
Amazing. Amazing. That's good. Um, we didn't really talk about this, but you obviously see operators from all different kinds of spectrums. What do you think is the best sales process there that is out there? If you could mention a guru or, something, just so people have something to go look for and
Yeah.
learn from.
It's funny. I see people coaching one call closes where people are making a bunch of money. I
Mhm.
see people coaching or teaching on, let me go run this by the financial department or whatever they say, or let me talk to my partners. I've seen that work.
Mhm.
Um, for me, the best one is the one you're making money with. Because I see a lot of people sort of farting around with all these things, and they're not focused on one thing, which is, am I making money? Yes or no. That's the only thing that matters. Am I making
Mhm.
money? Yes or no. If you're making money, you're onto something. It doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement. Um, so I wouldn't say that there's any. I don't know. I don't know if there's one that's better than the other. Two of kind of the guys that I gravitate to more for learning sales in the real estate space. Steve Trang,
Mhm.
his sales training is uh, top line. We've been very lucky to be able to work with him as our sales trainer here at Property Leads for the last like year and a half. Definitely highly recommend him if
Mhm.
anybody's like interested in just kind of learning more about sales. Another fellow, Benmont Locker from Ramp, um,
Mhm.
teaches systems and sales. Those two guys are kind of my go-to. I lean on them even if there's something here that I have a question about, like, hey, here's some feedback we're getting. I'm a little too close to it. Like, what are your thoughts on this? And they can generally give me feedback from like the investor's perspective, and it's really helpful. So, um, I think the rapport building is more important than how many calls it takes to close.
Mhm.
One of the things that I see is investors think that they should get a yes or no in 6.5 minutes. And when you are on the phone, well, we're in high ticket sales, right? Which is a very challenging thing to be in. You got to be really skilled.
Mhm.
The seller is often moving their most valuable prized possession, which is their house. And if people think that in 8 minutes they're going to be able to build rapport and get to a yes or a no, you're never going to beat somebody who is willing to go sit in that living room for 3 hours and learn about everything that person has going on and then get that deal under contract. So,
Mhm.
from a sales process perspective, if you just connect better with the seller, you don't even have to be great at sales. You just got to be better at connecting. I was having a conversation with a fella last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. He
Mhm.
was trying to do one call closes in his own market.
Mhm.
I was like, dude, he's like a super likable guy. He's really funny.
Mhm.
I was like, you need to get out to appointments, dude, and just sit with these people. Cause like they're gonna be like, this is my guy, because he's just so genuine and authentic, and they can't feel that through the phone. I'm not saying that you can't close through the phone. I've done it. But if you're local and you're doing local deals, like it's just an advantage that you have. So I would say my generic answer is whichever one makes you the most money. It's going to be different for everybody. I'm personally better at closing on the phone than in person. I don't know why, but I am.
Mhm.
So like if I have the opportunity to do it on the phone, I will. Um, but follow the money. Whichever one's making you the most money, do that one.
Okay, great answer. Okay, sweet. Now, a part of sales is the follow up cadence. Okay,
Yeah.
so over the first 30 days, how many touch points and across, which channels do the top performers hit? Like what?
Yeah, maybe one of the giveaways we can give away for this podcast is I'll share a drip campaign with you that we use internally and that we give away to people, and you can give that away to your audience.
Mhm.
You know, I'm a big fan of hitting people often, but I also want thoughtful follow up, right? It's not about just sending 100 text messages in the first like 3 or 4 days. We want to hit them hard, but we don't want to send them the same text message over and over and over and over again. It just gets annoying.
Mhm.
Thoughtful messaging, 3 messages a day, text in the morning, email at lunch, phone call in the evening, and then stagger them the following day. I will say I am a big fan of sending the same text message and email at the same time. So you could call that like 2 touch points. Hey, Julian,
Mhm.
you still interested in a cash offer? Did you give up on selling? I'm just trying to catch them either at work on their email or on their phone via a text.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
so that, and keep your messages basic. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people where they're like, this is James from Modern Property Solutions in Woburn, Massachusetts. We buy houses for cash. We can buy your house fast for cash and close in less than 7 days. Press one if you want a fast cash. It's just, I'm like, bro, can you just text them like they're one of your boys and just say, hey, like I buy houses. It sounds like you got one for sale. How can I help? Like, you know, don't make it spammy. Like just make it be you. Um, a couple other things that I recommend if you're local, door knocking for sure. Putting little post-it notes on the door, you know, it's taking like a selfie like in front of the house and texting it to them saying, hey, like I stopped by, I want to buy this house. Like, what can I do to help? Um, FaceTime. If you're brave
Mm.
enough to FaceTime
Yeah.
somebody, FaceTime them. Um, the logic there is that spam has not reached FaceTime yet. You don't get many spam, FaceTime calls. So
Mhm.
if they have an iPhone and you do, and you can FaceTime them, they're more likely to answer. Now, you got to be brave to do that. That's a tricky one, but you're looking for the slight edge, right? You just do a little bit more
Yeah.
than the next. Um, I would never stop following up. I think it's 20% of our 20% of the refunds we approve end up selling
Mm.
over the course of like 6 to 12 months. Okay, we'll
Mhm.
call it 12. Let's call it within 12 months.
Mhm.
Now, what that tells me is that the person who has the best follow up is probably going to get that deal. So
Mhm.
you can hit them hard for the first week or two, but then after that, maybe you space it out a little bit. Maybe you go from 2 weeks to 3 weeks to a month. I wouldn't wait any longer than a month to message people. But at that point, my messaging would turn into more like educating people on selling rather than just me saying, hey, you want to sell your house? Hey, you want to sell your house? Hey, you want to sell your house? Hey, here's 3 houses I just bought. You probably aren't interested in selling because I haven't heard back. Um, if you are interested in selling, we can get you an offer quick, or whatever your pitch is. So
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, that's great. Great all advice. That's some good tips right there. Um, Alrighty, so we talked a little bit about it, about the 30-second rule, obviously it makes a big difference. But when your best buyers call a fresh lead, like what are they doing differently on the first 60 to 120 seconds?
Um, yeah, get them on the phone, keep them on the phone. I know I keep saying that. It's literally the key. Get them on the phone, keep them on the phone. Because if they fill out multiple web forms, right, the other two or whatever investors, however many form fills they filled out, they're calling. They're
Mm,
blowing them up. So get them on the phone, keep them on the phone, build that rapport. Be okay with staying on the phone with somebody for 2 hours if there's something there. Also, if you're local and you can get out to the appointment, I would definitely do that as well. If you have the ability to get out to the appointment right then and there, go out to the appointment at that moment. If you have the infrastructure for it.
Okay, good, good, good. Now let's talk a little bit about systems and KPIs. So if I'm doing 1 to 3 deals a month, right, and I want to bolt on PPL, right, what minimum systems do I need to have in place before I send you a dollar, or that you?
Yeah, if you're doing 1 to 3 deals, well, let me ask you this: if somebody's doing 1 to 3 deals, would you assume they have a CRM?
Well, I'd say on the lower end, no.
Okay.
On the yeah.
Yeah, fair. It's tricky, right? Because your CRM setup stack can get expensive, and like if you're
Mhm.
newer and the CRM is 300 or 400 bucks, like I think you benefit more as the new investor putting that into marketing rather than like CRM.
Mhm.
Um, when you start to have a lot of leads coming in monthly, I'd say 10 plus, and the initial touch point matters and also follow up matters. I would say baseline to CRM. Um, Again, I wouldn't pay monthly for a CRM and not put money into marketing, if that makes sense. I would find a
Mhm.
really inexpensive CRM that works good enough at the moment. And then later when I have more cash flow or more money, more deals coming in, I might upgrade for, the perks, right? The sexy, the sexy new things and all the different CRMs. But I would
Mhm.
say a CRM will definitely make your life easier. Um, Consistency, right? So like the ability to spend, at least with property leads, $1,500 a month for at least 6 months, mentally prepare to buy 200 leads. If you're thinking like, I'm just going to buy 3 leads and see how it goes, like honestly, it's not even worth it. We won't even onboard you. Like if you say that on the
Mhm.
onboarding call, I just want to test it out for a couple leads. Like it's just like, what are we testing? Like we already know this works. So like, it's
Mhm.
okay if you're not ready, right? I don't say that to like make fun of anybody or, make them feel like bad about themselves. But um,
Mhm.
we don't want to take $1,000 from you and then have you not get a deal and then you cancel. Like we don't feel good about that. We want you to commit for at least 6 months. We want you to at least mentally prepare to buy 200 leads,
Mhm.
and be prepared to work those leads as hard as you possibly can.
Okay, nice, nice. So now let's talk a little bit about the short KPI list that any PPL buyer should know cold each week.
Yeah. So leads to appointments, right?
Mhm.
Maybe you skip that one if you're doing virtual. We have a lot of people that do virtual, right? Leads to contracts at
Mhm.
that point. Contracts to close deals
Mhm.
is an important one. And then leads that closed. This is sort of centered around title transfer. Um,
Mhm.
you want to look at your leads, whether they came from property leads or not, folks that you talked to made an offer on. How many of those
Mhm.
sold to you versus somebody else?
Mhm.
Did it sell to somebody else for less money? I've seen that happen.
Mhm.
You make your offer at 200K, seller says no way. Then you see that it sold to somebody else for 180, and you're like, I don't understand. How did this happen? Right.
Right.
So tracking your kind of opportunity cost,
Yeah.
right? From the leads I bought, how many sold to somebody? How many opportunities did I have that I missed? If you do those ones kind of at the baseline, you're going to be in a really good position.
Okay. Okay. So what at what point, we talked a little bit about, like, you just mentioned, like, a person that may not be a good fit, right? Like, so what is the threshold when you tell someone, like, hey, you should not be buying leads from us right now?
Um, it's kind of it's always sort of been a tug of war there because like we know we have the best leads, so we know that like when people buy 15, 20 leads from us, they have the best shot to get a deal.
Mhm.
But if they're brand new and they're like, James, this is my last 1,500 bucks, like if I don't get a deal from this, like I'm gonna be homeless. I'm like, bro, you got some other things to fix before you start buying leads.
Yeah.
So, we want people just at least understanding that, there's a possibility that they might buy 10 to 15, 20 leads from us and not get a deal. I'm like, are you okay with that? I remember a
Mhm.
couple years ago, I was talking to this fella and I just got the sense that he wasn't quite ready. And I was like, hey, man, I got to ask. I said, let's say you buy 20 leads from us and you don't get a deal. I said, what would happen next? And he was like, I won't say exactly what he said, but he's like, well, bro, I would be, effing, peed off. And I was like,
Mhm.
honestly, dude, I don't think you should buy leads from us. Cause like, I can't promise you that you're going to get a deal in 20 leads. I just can't. And I would hate
Mhm.
for us to get to 20 and then you feel like you got hustled. Like we don't solve the problem. If you can't mentally commit to buying, 100, 150, 200 leads, like, I don't think you should do this. I don't think
Mhm.
you should do it.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Um. Okay. So let's say you mentioned $1,500 for 6 months, right? That's 150 to 200 leads. How much? Like, what would be? I mean, a fair number of realistic deals per month, and payback period when if someone's looking to actually do that. Like,
Yeah. Depending on where they're buying, if they're buying national leads, you know, you can buy 100 leads for 3 grand. Um, I mean, I'd have to imagine there's at least 4 deals in there minimum.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Um, probably more, but there's at least four.
Mm-hmm.
If you lock all four up, I'm guessing one or two could fall out due to title issues or you know overpaid, a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is just if you're brand new, by the way. I'm not talking about if you're seasoned. I'm talking brand new. You're like,
Right.
should I do this? Yes or no? Um, one of the larger coaching programs that we work with, the expectations that they set for a new student coming in that's never done real estate is it's going to take you 100 leads to get your first closed and funded deal because you have to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to work the leads. You're going to have to deal with title issues. Some are going to fall out. Sellers are going to ghost. Like there's all kinds of stuff that's going to pop up. Um, your local markets more competitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. Cost per deal is going to vary. It's going to be a lot higher in like Southern California than it is in like middle Kansas. Cost per deal in Southern Cal is anywhere from like 7K to 10K at the moment. Where
Mm-hmm.
in some of the Midwest states, it's going to be a lot less, anywhere from 1,500 to 3K. So
Mm-hmm.
in terms of cost per deal, it's going to be very market specific. In terms of how many leads it takes to get a deal, tough to know for sure. Depends on the operator, but if somebody comes in and like, let's put it this way, let's say somebody comes in and they've purchased 200 leads from us, and they're like, dude, I've not gotten one deal. These are the worst things I've ever seen. We're gonna do an account review with you, and we're gonna figure out like if we did a bad job, and if we did, we're gonna make it right.
Okay. Wonderful. Sweet. Sweet. Now, you know, I want to know how your top clients, are using proof and testimonials to make it easier for sellers to say yes once they're in a conversation.
Um, Great question. I've definitely seen a lot more of the local companies having a higher emphasis on just brand building, and part of that is getting referrals.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely pay your sales team to get video, testimonials and like Google reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I know one guy pays $100 cash. So like if somebody gets either or a video testimonial or like a Google review, he just gives them $100 in cash. And it's a great way for him to get a lot of reviews and testimonials for the site, and also
Mm-hmm.
for his sales team to have kind of like an extra like spiff, bonus, $100 here or there. So
Mm-hmm.
um, that's probably the coolest way I've seen. It's definitely something that people should be working on. You should always be asking for testimonials. You should always be asking for reviews. And if you're not getting them, you should be asking why. And
Mm-hmm.
then when they tell you why, you should fix those things immediately.
Amazing. Amazing. Great. Great. Great answer. Now, um, and when you see someone like, let's say your property leads, I don't know, you do account reviews or something, and you see someone go from 1 out of 25, you mentioned, 100 leads, right? You get 4 deals, right? For a beginner, right? To 1 out of 10. or a smaller amount, like what
Sure.
usually changed inside their business?
Um, a high emphasis on improving the sales process always, right? Call
Mhm.
reviews, um, salesperson accountability, adding exit strategies also helps, right? If you
Mhm.
have more options for more leads, you're more likely to close more deals. So I'd say improved sales process and sales skills, and then just more exit strategies. Just like it's like a skill set lift that you have to learn, right? Like I follow Alex Hormozy a lot. I don't know if you do, but he sort of
Yeah.
has this like unsophisticated approach to sales where it's like the person who does the most wins. So like if you and I are on sales calls weekly, right? And I'm on 60 hours a week of sales calls and you're on 30, well, I'm getting double the reps in. Over the course of a month and a year, I'm getting way more reps in than you. So I'm just going to be better over time.
Mhm.
So if you're just doing more and improving your sales process and just getting better at the skill of closing and getting good at real estate, naturally over time, your conversion rates are going to improve.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Alrighty. Well, you know, I think this has been great. I really do think people are going to get value from it. Do you think it would be valuable? Maybe there's a lot of beginners, who are watching this, and some of the things that I did to get more experience was definitely using one of those like Fizzy Lead services. Do you
Yeah.
have like a link for that? And we can also apply like the text CRM drip thing that you said.
Yeah. Let's do a couple things for your listeners. So I'm guessing you have show notes. Is there show notes?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, YouTube
Perfect.
video in the bottom. Yeah.
So we'll get folks a link to sign up for Property Leads that will give them $250 in free lead credit if they fund their account. Okay, so that's the piece of the matter. They have to fund their account, sign up.
Mhm.
If they do that, we'll get them $250 in free credit. Just for using kind of the link from the
Mhm.
show notes for Property Leads. For Fizzy Leads, we'll also get them a link. I'll try to find some sort of sexy coupon code that I can use for that as well.
Mhm.
Um, to give them a little something off on the front end, and then we'll make sure that they get access to that drip campaign as well, so that they can use that in their CRM, or they could even send the messages manually. Honestly, it's better than nothing. But
Mhm.
we'll get them those three things, and hopefully that sort of helps.
Great. That sounds great. Now, um, one last question. You mentioned exit strategies.
Yep.
Where or like how can people find out the exit strategies? And also I think recommend you said like easy REI closings that they can help get deals closer to the closed. So
Yeah, Easy REI is a transaction coordination company. So you get a deal under contract, you send over all the paperwork, and they just handle it. They do everything. They're a great tool. They're not cheap, nor should they be, because they solve a lot of problems. Them for sure.
hmm
What was the other part of the question? Sorry.
the first one was the exit strategies. You said
Oh yeah,
because you said someone has more ways of making money than the other, and so.
yeah. I'm pretty sure we have an article out there. I can name a few that if you just do these as kind of kind of your baseline stack for exit strategies, you'll be in really good shape.
hmm
If you wholesale, amazing. You
hmm
should either have a realtor referral or do novations or be open to learning novations.
hmm
Um, most coaching programs teach those these days. I don't, who's the best for you. I don't know. Some of the great ones that I've seen out there are Ramp with Benmont Blocker, like I've mentioned. Nick Perry's seven figure cartel coaching program. They teach a lot of the creative stuff. Everybody in that group's making money. I know RJ Bates teaches primarily wholesaling, and then as people get a little bit better, they can transition into some other stuff. But I'd say if you have these two options for sellers, the cash offer for people who want to sell fast, and a way to get them closer to top price for the people who prefer top price versus the fast sale. If you do those two things, you'll be in really good shape. subject to and those things are a little bit more advanced. And if you're not doing them the right way, you can get yourself into trouble.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't recommend like going out as a brand new investor and just doing a bunch of sub two deals. Um, you have to have some cash to, make payments if people aren't paying, renters, whatever you're putting in. So maybe that's like a down the road strategy, but baseline to start, cash offers, wholesale, novations, or some sort of MLS, referral network. Those two things usually get you pretty close to the top.
Okay, great. And James, where are you on social media? What is the best way to, communicate with property leads with you? When is that article going to come out so we can be the top percent buyers?
Yeah, I'm gonna put a request in with our customer success manager today, to put that article together, and I'll definitely help him with figuring out what should be in there and what shouldn't, and we'll definitely get that out into the wild for you guys.
Mhm.
Man, you could add me on Facebook. I'm kind of boring on social media. I'm like one of those guys that has like 162 followers on Instagram. I just, I focus on the things that make me money. And, for me, it's just, kind of being in the trenches daily doing property leads related stuff. But yeah, you could hit me up on Facebook. If you're interested in buying leads or like learning about whether or not property leads can help you out, definitely, use Julian's link so that you can, get the credits when you sign up. Um, could email me, james@propertyleads.com. I'll respond there. But yeah, those are probably the best. Those are probably the best ways.
Amazing. All right. Well, I think we hit it off the park with this one. So,
Thanks,
uh,
man. I love it.
thank you. All right, James.
Thanks, guys.